do business law. I had the big zechut for the last year and a half day. I learned in a kollel. We learned the laws of chosh and mishpat. Just like the food you eat is kosher, needs to be kosher, we need to act ethically and halachically in the business world. And this is a fascinating case. I've actually been, for the last year and a half, been learning the laws of shomrim. And this is actually a very interesting and nice case. Now the case at hand that we want to analyze and then see the halachic view is that the way it works for buying most very expensive religious products like a Sefer Torah, Megillah, Mezuzah, Tefillin, Stam, is that usually there's the actual person that writes in a special leather, and I want to reiterate that it has to be handwritten, all of them, they can't be photocopied. Then there's the middleman that has like actual the retail store. So the sofer is actually more of like a manufacturer, so to say. He necessarily, not all sofrim also sell directly to the customer. Depends how much of a businessman they are. That's just how the world works, especially by Sifrei Torah. But then you have the consumer. So here was an interesting case that a certain young rabbi, Avrech in Israel, saw a beautiful Megillah for $700. It's interesting that a lot of stuff especially before the 2000s, in the 90s and 80s, the dollar was much more stable. So before the Israeli economy, Baruch Hashem, is getting better and better every day, they used to sell a lot of expensive stuff in dollars. So a young rabbi, it's a wonderful thing. Megillah, a lot of the halachas that we write in Megillah is very similar to a Sefer Torah. That's why it's so expensive. It takes quite a lot. So he gave it to his rabbi to say, hey, my Rosh Kollel, the dean of my rabbinical school, is it worth it for me to shell out so much? I get a meager salary. I live on such a small, living. Is this product worth the $700? So he took the physical Megillah from the middleman, actually, gave it to his mentor for him to see the quality and is it actually worth the price. Now, unfortunately, a big accident happened that the item got stolen, went missing. How? One night, like in this beautiful room, the rabbi was laying out the Megillah to check, make sure it's kosher and mehudar, it's pristine, and it's worth the money for his student. And a beggar came knocking. He said, Rabbi, I need money. The rabbi said, I'm busy right now. No, Abba, It was one of these more, seemed shady beggars, not like asking for a handout. The rabbi could not say no to the guy. The guy refused to leave till he got some, a dollar or two or a shekel, 5 shekel, whatever. The rabbi did not have any cash. He went to his bedroom to get the money. He gave it to the guy so he could focus back. And unfortunately, the Megillah was nowhere to be found. So the question here very simply is, who needs to pay up? It's especially in that, $700 for anybody, but especially if you're living on a very low income, the kollel people get only between $800 to $1,200 a month, and their wives also work. They make $1,000 a month. They're making $2,000-3,000 a month between all their money. So who's liable here? So the answer is, then we're going to go analyze in Choshen Mishpat halachically why it is. But the answer very simply is, here the Rosh Kolel would need to pay up for the $700 cough up the money, because he's considered to be negligent. Because he should not have let a stranger in to be alone with such a valuable item. But if we have witnesses, or the Rosh Kolel can prove that, no, I did not let this guy come into my house. I told him to wait at the door. I actually closed the door behind him. So he never came inside my property. I did not let him be alone with the item. Then the potential buyer that had brought him the Megillah, his student, the Rosh Kolel student, he would have to pay the $700, because it's the same halacha that happens all the time. Actually, it's a very important halacha. It's in the, we'll say the source on the Shulchan Aruch, but it's Lokea Klik Min Ha'Olam Levakro. It's very common practice buy a diamond ring or jewelry that you want to propose to your wife, Bezat Hashem, or like a lulav and etrog in Israel. A lot of times they take it and they want to make sure, get a second opinion, or by their cousin, somebody that knows a little bit more about this, or they take a lulav etrog and they take it to the Rav, so that they don't trust the seller. Is this actually worth $100 to pay $100 for a lemon and a palm branch? Like, right? Does it have any dots on it? So let's say the whenever you take an item and he's not trying to force the item down your throat. You understand? You're interested. You approach him to buy an item off him that's desirable, so you have to take responsibility for it. So if the Rosh Kolel did not let the guy into his house, so he didn't do any negligence, but somehow it's missing. So that's not the Rosh Kolel's fault, but the halacha is, if you ever buy an item, potentially want to buy an item, right? And you're looking to investigate into its quality, to, take it home, then you're liable to pay if it gets lost or stolen. Now, the source of this is obviously the whole laws of Shomer Chinam in Shulchan Aruch, Reish Sadi 291, Choshen Mishpat, the fourth chelik. I've been learning that, believe it or not, almost for more than a year. But there's a fascinating, the source of this halacha is in the Ramah, based on a Trumas Hadeshen. The Terumat Hadeshen is one of the most important Rishonim, and he has a very interesting case. He had a case that Nishal Beroven Shefkid Etzel Shimon Kad Katan V'Tocho Ma'ot Kesef. He said, let's say around 1,000 years ago, in the time of the Trumat Deshen, 800, 900 years ago, somebody gives a pouch full of gold or silver dollars to his Ruvain, gives it to his neighbor Shimon, right? And just to make clear, there's 4 different types of watchmen, custodians for a specific item, right? There's a Shomer Chinam, an unpaid watchman, which is only really liable for gross or major negligence, right? Since he's doing a favor to the guy. Then you have a Shomer Sachar, which is a paid custodian, watchman. He has a much higher liability. He is only exempt if unavoidable mishap happens, like armed robbers, but if it gets stolen or lost, is a Shomer Sachar chayav? Yes. A Shomer Chinam would be patur on Geneva and Aveda for lost and stolen items if he wasn't negligent. But a paid security guard, of course, is going to be, because that's the whole reason he's hired. Then you have a renter and a borrower. Who has the highest liability of anybody? A borrower. He has to always pay no matter what. Only if it breaks under normal wear and tear and usage, which is Mesa Machmas Malacha, then he's only exempt. All other cases he's chayiv. Now, the issue over here is so Ruvain, which is the owner of the item, gives to his neighbor Shimon, the shomer, the unpaid watchman, a bag of silver or gold coins. He puts it under his bed, and guess what happens? This is the classical case that we learned this halacha from. Levi comes running into Shimon's house. Oh my goodness, my chicken is missing. My hen is missing. Did it run into your house? Could I check all around your house? The problem is that, unfortunately, Shimon, the shomer, the unpaid watchman, which is like the kind of the Rosh Kolel in our case, let the gentleman free roamly around his house and even in his bedroom, where this was put under his bed. He was hiding the thing in like, and guess what? Unfortunately, after Levi, which was looking, he went on a wild goose chase. He was looking for his, not wild goose, but his hen. When Shimon came to look for the item to give it back to Reuven, it was missing. So the Trumas Hadesh and Paskins that this is considered halachically gross negligence. Now the way we understood it in our Chabura is that the Trumas Hadeshen kind of avoids this. Even though usually we don't accuse people based on the Gemara and Shavuos, people have a cheskas kashrus, which means people usually, we presume people are not thieves until we have any other indication or hearsay that there's a right? People have a cheskas kashrus, which presumptively we consider them kosher. So why here do we think that Levi stole it and it's considered gross negligence? Because it comes as, here it's different because the proof is in the pudding. Like the gold bag, the bag of gold coins doesn't have like feet to walk away. It's not like a parakeet or a dog to try to break out. So kind of the way I understood it in Mar Chabura, I want to say it's kind of like Hilchas Yichud. When you give a person an opportunity to steal, he'll steal. So the Torah demands that expensive items, the shomer should not let strange people that definitely Reuven, the owner of the item, doesn't trust. He trusted you to watch it, to be alone with the item and just, you need to follow the guy. So unfortunately, here the proof is in the pudding. We know that before Levi came in the room, the thing was fine and dandy under the bed. But it could be that, Levi looked under the bed. He got enticed. This is probably we don't know for 100%. I mean, nowadays, thank God we have cameras, which helps out a lot. Then we could go get Levi. But a lot of times people won't want to put a camera in their bedroom, especially where they hide their stuff. So it's not really going to even help in modern technology. It's this classical case would most probably apply today. The problem being is that, we could presume that Levi took it, but you gave him the opportunity to take it. Because if you would have been on top of Levi's head, right, the chicken owner wouldn't have took it. So that's exactly what happened here. And the Ramah paskins like this, Trumas Hadeshen, in 291, Saif 21. And so based on this, by the way, this shiur is based on one of the greatest of all judges in all of Israel. He's a great Sephardi rabbi. We're so proud of him. The Sefer Shimru Mishpat. The shiur is based on chapter 59, and it's by Harav Zarafani. Rabbi Zarafani is one of the most prestigious Dayanim. Rav Shlomo Zarafani, my brother-in-law, Rabbi Eli, learns in one of the most prestigious Choshen Mishpat kollels in all of the Israel. He says that they are always asking Rabbi Zarafani to come enlighten, because he's the head of a Jewish court that has quite a few questions. This was an actual question presented to the Jewish rabbinical court, and this is the answer. He just brings out another idea, Rabbi Zarafani, which is very interesting, and I wrote it in my notes. He says that How do we know from the Trumat Hadeshen that merely letting a stranger being alone in the same room with the expensive item is considered gross negligence, prishia, and therefore you're considered you didn't do your job of watching the item appropriately. That's why you got to pay for the Megillah, which is exactly like the chicken. But in the case of the Trumas Hadeshen, he brings out a very important point. That's why I wanted to mention in our shir. The case is very different. The case over there is you let him actually inspect all the four corners of the room. So he says a very fundamental yesod, which is Pashat Pshat, but it's beautiful the way he brings it out. He says, depends. If the item is hidden, like in a safe or in a hiding spot, letting the guy being 2 seconds alone with the item, a strange person, is not considered negligence, because the guy doesn't have X-ray vision to check it. But our case, the Megillah was laid out on the table; it was not hidden. So that immediately, even though it took maybe only a minute for the Rosh Kolo to go get a few coins to give to the beggar, that minute, since it wasn't it was out in the open, you understand? So it depends. If an item is actually in a good hiding spot, we can't say that it's gross negligence letting a stranger person be in the room with it for a few seconds, right? Because he doesn't have the opportunity to know and go and find it, right? It's in a safe, it's under a bed, it's in a hiding spot. But when it's out in the open, even for a few seconds, you understand, it is considered gross negligence to be the guy, because the guy just grab it off the table and leave. And we have this saying in Farsi: if you want to make sure people don't pickpocket you, tighten your zipper or the zipper and the button of your pants very tight so people can, don't leave it dangling out your wallet, because that's really the yesod here. That, unfortunately, even though usually we accept people to be kosher, it's not. So now, just the last part of there's another very important concept in this Choshen Mishpat, and that is, this is one of the most common denominators, that even a Shomer Chinam, whenever he gets exempt, because the Torah knows that sometimes people have a big Yetzer Hara to steal, the two most powerful enticements, sinful enticements, desires we have is sexual sin and to embezzle and misappropriate money. Even a Shomer Chinam, which is only liable for gross negligence, but he has to swear that he didn't personally take it, right? He has to swear, I was not gross negligent, and I don't know what happened to it. But there's another important halacha, that whenever you can't swear, you have to pay. So technically we could say, hey, that the Shomer Chinam does not know, the Rosh Kolo doesn't know who took it. Perhaps the beggar took it, perhaps somebody else broke into his house, took it, but see, since you accepted to watch it, you need to either bring witnesses that it was stolen by somebody else. So you understand, Shani? If, let's say, the watchman, the Rosh Kolo, proves that somebody broke into his house, he has video. So does he need to pay for it? No, because he wasn't grossly negligent. So you need to prove that you weren't negligent through witnesses, or you could swear. But if you don't have the info, the owner of the item doesn't lose out. You don't, because when there's a halacha, whenever you don't are not able to clarify and swear, too bad, too sad. You need to pay the piper. Okay. So the same thing here. That's the Mefulish Ramad in the same 291, Reish Sadi Aleph in 18. So therefore, in our case, since the Rosh Kolo was negligent and he can't swear that maybe the beggar didn't take it, somebody else took it, he doesn't have witnesses or he can't swear. When you can't bring witnesses or swear that you were negligent, then what happens? You need to pay. And the most important thing in this shir is, based on chapter 200 of the Shulchan Aruch, halacha 11, that the Rambam is based on the Rambam. The Rambam says, like we said in the beginning of the shir, whenever you take an item like a diamond or jewelry or a lulav or etrog or Sefer Torah, a lot of times happens. Sefer Torah, mezuzah. I want to put up the best mezuzah. So you take it from the retailer. Oh, I want to take it to my rabbi or another sofer, to my cousin that's a big rabbi, to make sure this is a good mehudar, pristine, the highest quality and craftsmanship of a mezuzah. And you are liable. The halacha is halokeach kli min ha'oman, whoever takes a item from a manufacturer of an item, right? A craftsman, that like a jeweler. You make it doesn't necessarily, even the retailer, from the person to check the quality. It's like your borrower, and you have a din of a shayil, a borrower, and who has the highest liability on an item? A shoel, because the based on the Rambam, now why when you want to check the quality of an item do we treat you so harshly, and if it gets lost you have to still pay for it? You know why? Because let's say this diamond gets double in value. Can the seller charge you double? No. It's considered retroactively, like you did a kinyan. You acquired it. You just took it. You're interested in buying it. You just want to make sure this quality is consistent with what the seller is telling you. So you're getting a second opinion to make sure it's a kosher transaction. And, people that are bigger authorities than you, that are more, how do you say, Bucky? More expert than you in this item, are also giving their stamp of approval, right? But it comes out, since let's say he quoted you a price, he can't up his price anymore halachically, right? So it's kind of like the transaction and the deal has begun. So therefore it has its benefits and its downsides. One benefit is he cannot raise the price on you. Even let's say the market tomorrow, a diamond ring becomes double because whatever reason, or lulav and etrog, a big storm happened, half of the supply is supply and demand. He can't raise the price on you, but by the same token, you are liable for even unavoidable mishaps, right? And for sure, if it's lost or stolen. So therefore, unfortunately, if the Rosh Kollel, in our case, going back to our case, if the Rosh Kollel, that was the one that was giving his expert opinion, if it's kosher, was clearly not negligent, then who would have to pay the piper? Who would have to pay the sofer, the owner of the Megillah that wrote the Megillah? It would be the Avrech himself, the potential buyer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this very interesting shir. And hopefully we'll have many more of these. Amen.
Amen.